Welcome to Perspectives El Paso. I'm Leon Blevins, Professor of Government at El Paso Community College. I'm always trying to find very interesting guests to share with you in El Paso. Remember, our program is called Perspectives. I want to tell you a little brief story about the mid-1980s to late 1980s. I had a work-study student named Yvonne, and she had been in a gang. And she got out of the gang when she became pregnant and a small baby girl. And she decided at that time it was time to leave the gang because she did not want to raise her child in that environment. At one point, she was invited to be on the Geraldo Rivera show, and they flew her to New York City, and she, a Hispanic female that got out of a gang, was on the program. They had an African-American young woman who got out of a gang on the show, and they had a white young lady also had gotten out of a gang, and they had a conversation about what it's like to be in a gang and then to get out. So today I have on the show Rob Gallardo, who is with a program about Operation Gangs, and he works in gang intervention programs throughout our area. Rob, good to have you.
Good to see you, sir. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Good to meet you. I'm just now getting acquainted with you.
Yes, sir. It's called Operation No Gangs.
Operation No Gangs.
There you go.
Okay. And your shirt says a lot of it right there.
You got the website?
A website, operationnogangs.org. Do you have a telephone you'd like to
give?
We
do. It's area code 915-239-1997. 239-1997.
Okay, very good, because we're going to put that on the screen for people that want to participate with your program or give support to your program.
Great.
I know you're always welcoming support.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Okay, tell us a little bit about you and your background. How did you get into this area?
I grew up in El Paso and attended Stanford University after attending Austin High School.
Okay.
And I had hopes to become maybe a dentist or an attorney. And I was very intrigued by juvenile law and studied case histories regarding delinquents. I had a chance also in Los Angeles to work with the juvenile probation system and was very intrigued with gangsters and their culture. And it was at that Los Angeles time that I was able to work with gangsters and find out about their culture. And I developed a curriculum to work with gangsters to be able to help them get back and transition to society, plus also get them out of the gang. I brought that program to El Paso in 2000 and have since 2000 have operated here in El Paso, teaching parents about what signs might indicate a child's involved in a gang, and also assisting youngsters in leaving or making the decision to leave the gang lifestyle.
Were you ever in the Compton or Linwood area?
Sure did. I lived in Los Angeles and worked very closely in the cities of Bell, Huntington Park, Linwood, Southgate, all that area, which is very gang infested, unfortunately. Yeah. And it was there where I got a lot of experience in working with gang members directly.
Well, I used to live in that area during the summers with my father and stepmother. My father worked for General Motors in Southgate, and they lived right on the boundary between Linwood and Compton. It was largely at that time white middle-class neighborhood.
At that time.
It began to change during that period of time, during the 1960s, especially late 50s, early 60s. And they eventually had to move out because of the criminal element. It wasn't about race, about blacks moving in the neighborhood, but my stepmother was mugged twice, robbed twice, and they said, we can't live in this environment. So they moved out of that environment.
It's become also a very Mexican neighborhood now, so we're seeing a lot of racial tensions in that area where it was formerly white, then black, now immigrant, Hispanic. So a lot of racial tension exists along with the criminality or criminal
When you were at Austin High School, did you see gang activity there, or were you ever, they were trying to lure you into a gang?
You know, it was very limited. In fact, the old gangster from the 1970s and early 80s was a very respectful kind of person. And you usually saw individuals who were a little bit older, 17, 18, 19, 20, who were starting in the gang. They didn't like to have youngsters because they were liabilities to the gang. Okay. So you saw individuals who kept the gang culture to themselves. They didn't bother people, and it was among themselves that they had these issues. But they had a code of honor and respect. You didn't talk about gangs, didn't fight, didn't use kind of certain weapons, and things have changed.
Much more civilized gangs.
Exactly, civilized, and they had little codes of respect, and you would actually have them sit together, but now it's all come down where we're seeing a lot of youngsters who don't know the codes and want to be show-offs and a lot of bravado. So we've seen the culture of the gang as far as the respect and the bravado change quite a bit.
Right. One time I had a student, a woman, came into class, and she said, Mr. Blevins, I'm so upset. My daughter goes to this middle school. I bought her something nice for her birthday, nice dress outfit, a kind of sporty outfit to wear. And she said, Mom, I can't wear that to my school. And she said, why? And she said, that's a gang color at my school. That's dangerous for me to wear that color. And my student at El Paso Community College was irate that her daughter could not wear whatever she wanted to wear to her middle school. Do you see this?
It is unfortunate, but colors are probably the primary thing that distinguish patently what a gang member is about. In El Paso, the primary colors that kids are using, and you see at schools, are blue and red. Usually when a child tends to wear, for example, clothing that's red like this, maybe with even red shoelaces and a red bandana, it indicates he might be a blood or a norteño.
Right.
If he's wearing, for example, blue on a regular basis, and it's blue colors for everything, he's probably a Sudaño or a Crip, in which case those colors, even by a shoelace that's blue, might bring a problem to a person because of the color. People have been killed for wearing red shoelaces when they have a favoritism for it towards red. We also in El Paso have gangsters who, for example, will mix colors like this. And on the east side of El Paso in particular, we have gold and black, which is predominant for certain gangs, and then some gangs that wear black and green.
Do parents go along with this? Are parents being made aware these colors are dangerous?
It's unfortunate, but what happens is it's the parent who often buys the clothing for the child, often knowing that they are gang involved. And there are certain kinds of clothing you can buy that might suggest gang involvement, and you really can't buy these anywhere. There are specific locations, specific places, and the parent takes the child there to select the clothing, and there are other gangsters buying clothing. But the parent is often in cahoots with a kid to be able to get that clothing going. And it's dangerous because a person makes a decision about another one based upon what they're wearing and how they walk and how they talk. Clothing of this type, for example, certain kinds of brand names, certain kinds of dark colors, certain kinds of styles like plaids like this strongly indicate the classic cholo look. Shoes like this one are purchasable only at certain locations. Good shoe, good brand, but unfortunately gangsters use this particular shoe largely in black to show that they're gang members. When El Paso PD or Las Cruces PD sees a shoe like this and a child wearing, for example, this is a standard shirt for gangsters, this along with a black pant and a military belt, that tells PD that the child's describing his involvement in the gang and is making a message about it. And so that's a real strong message just by the clothing alone.
Well, this is what I call visual cues.
Correct.
You just from a glance, you
Exactly.
know something about that person.
Right.
Let me ask you about all of these gang symbols that are put on here. Sometimes I go into, let's say, the restroom at community college and I see the gang markers. I don't know how to interpret them. Do the police or does your group have a kind of a dictionary of what some of the symbols are?
Very definitely. Certain numbers, for example, 13 and 14 are very common here in the El Paso area. When you see a 13, it means that it's a Sudaño gang or a South gang, Hispanic. 14 means it's an Norteño gang that usually wears red. M and L will also indicate gang involvement. Numbers, for example, in this particular case, this is a gang in El Paso that uses this code here, and the second letter of the alphabet is B. The third letter is C, so they also go by the name of not only BCG, but also 2-3. And using those codes, Barrio Azteca uses 2-1 because B is 2 and A is 1. You'll also see, for example, certain kinds of notations like 187. 187 means it's the California Penal Code for homicide. If that's near someone's name on a tagging, it may indicate they're going to be killed. Certain letters like K mean it's a tagging crew or a group. L means local. V usually means barrio, as a B does as well. V and B for neighborhood. G for gang. But very distinct things. M is often used for Mexican mafia and also for Mexican, and common in the taggings that we're seeing in the El Paso area.
I met a gentleman who worked on our house, did some painting work and sheetrock work and things like that, and ended up in jail. His name is Beto. I asked him if he'd be all right to use his name on this particular program. And Beto was in a gang. He has all kinds of tattoos on his arms and was in one of these gangs in El Paso, Texas, serious business. And he said that he's gotten out of the gang and he would like to, when he gets out of jail, and he's hoping to get out of jail sometime, is he would like to go to schools and help talk to people and try to keep them out of gangs. You were going to bring some young men with you today. Correct. And they had to rearrange their schedule. Correct. You do things like that. Tell me about that, getting some of these people to go with you.
Right. Unfortunately, a lot of times when a person has felonies on their record, they cannot go to schools. It's unfortunate they can't have the contact. Right? But we're able to bring individuals who don't have a record to be able to go to schools and to social service agencies, to community groups, and talk about their lifestyle. We find that when we're talking to kids, especially kids 14 to 25, a peer is able to more clearly make recommendations about the gang lifestyle, leaving it, and also show through his lifestyle that he's made changes, and that seems to convince individuals, I can also make the same change. So having a peer advising is really a key to getting kids successfully off the gangs. Also, we're trying to show parents what a kid goes through whenever he joins a gang. And these kids talk from their direct experience as to what they've experienced, and they'll indicate to parents what the problems existed, what problems along the way caused them to trip. And you'll find that the number one problems as far as gang involvement are an absent father, a father who is just not at home for whatever reason, death, maybe a divorce, maybe estrangement, but it also has to do very closely with poor parental supervision. Parents who just don't keep an eye on their kids, don't know who the friends are, don't know who's calling, don't know how the kid's doing in school. And that lack of knowledge is what's causing the kid to be able to have that freedom to involve himself. And no rules at home. When we go to a home and see where there's no chore structure, no homework structure, no concerns about morals. Oftentimes when people don't go to church frequently, we'll see that that's also an issue where they may be more inclined to be involved in the gang.
They're just totally undisciplined.
That's the whole thing, and that's the key right there. You show a household that doesn't have rules or structure or any kind of orientation towards a moral structure.
Don't you find that some of the people that get into gangs are learning disabled, or they are very low reading and have difficulty and have low self-esteem, and the gang kind of pulls them in and gives them esteem?
Very good point, and I'm glad you said that. We're finding that the more and more we work with youngsters, a lot of them have learning disabilities such as ADHD, ADD, obsessive compulsive disorder, IED, intermittent explosive disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. These are disorders that were noticed early on. However, the child was never able to get good grades or connect in school, and for some reason he seemed to do well with those that didn't do well. We also see where there's a child who doesn't have a very strong anchor as far as who he is, will go anywhere, and the gang offers protection, the gang offers respect, the gang offers a lot of pride when you walk down the street wearing the same colors. So those kids are quite vulnerable, but learning disabilities are present in about maybe 70% of our kids currently in our group. We see, however, about 90% of the kids we work with have no father at home, and that's a predominant feature in our gang kids at this time.
Now, what is your relationship to the police department or probation department?
We don't work very closely with them. We mostly work with individuals who refer from schools, parents, social service agencies. We can work with them, but in general we receive referrals from the actual general public. And
especially the gang members would think that you're working for the police.
We also want to make sure we distinguish ourselves so we don't have any kind of tie where a child may be fearful about our connection with them.
Where do you get your funding to do this work?
I do everything myself. I work a little job as a defensive driving instructor, and those funds pay for what I take care of all week. And so I earn a few bucks here, provide that back here, and that's what funds our program. There's no funding of any sort from the state, from the government, from churches. It's all just me.
Do you ever feel in danger?
I have had situations like that, but I think what happens if I build a relationship with the kids on a level of respect at the very beginning, they begin to endear themselves to me and they'll take care of me more than anything. I have had people who have been angry about my working with a child because of my potential removal of him. And I've had my tires slashed, I've gotten a couple of threats by phone, but nothing really that could upset me, and you can't let those things stop you. But I have a lot of faith.
How do you get into the schools? You simply call the principal's office or counselor's office and say, I've got this program, I would like to see what I can do to help?
We attend a lot of meetings and do a lot of networking. I'm saying we because I bring the kids with me. We have a website also that describes 29 topics we work with. We have great topics regarding gang involvement, drug use, STDs, abstinence, self-esteem, personality disorders, and a lot of people see that website and call us. We work very closely with CIS in the schools. A lot of schools love us, and we're going to Parkland School tomorrow, for example, to go talk out there. El Paso Center for Children's inviting us to speak. So they see our website, they know about our work, and it's largely word of mouth. And so we go to a lot of schools and talk to either small groups, big groups, parent groups, all that kind of situation. We also teach teachers about how to work with the gangster, what the best practices are for having a relationship with a gangster student. They're different. We even teach social workers what techniques might work best as far as working with males and females. Females are harder to work with. They're just a little bit different. But small things we can tell them from our experience that might benefit and also bring more success to the program they're trying to bring onto them.
A couple of years after Yvonne was my work study student, I saw her in the community and I talked to her a little bit and I asked her this question. Yvonne, were you ever tempted to go back to the old gang? You know what she said? Yes. There's still a temptation to go back to the old gang.
Well, you won't believe it. I really believe that gang involvement is an addiction. We have kids in our group who have been in 5 gangs. We have kids we've assisted leaving one gang and they join another and another, even while they're in our program. And we find that those kids have a real need for belonging and identification. And unfortunately, some kids just love to belong. A lot of kids also see some of the gangs as so highly structured and exciting that they don't get that at home.
Right.
So the gang offers them a ladder, gives them missions, gives them activities, provides a kind of respect level, and also provides male and female figures they can look up to and say, man, this is a person I'd like to be like. And it's all there, packaged for them, because unfortunately parents aren't doing their job.
How do you fight that? What about midnight basketball or some of these kind of sports activities? Is that helpful?
It is helpful. We just don't have the funding for it at this time, but the thing is we have a lot of activities. Just yesterday we took the kids out to movies. We have, for example, outings where you help out different places like the Chamizal National Memorial. We keep them busy, try to find them jobs. Right now I'm looking for jobs for 2 individuals in the Anthony, New Mexico area, and we find the busier we can keep them, the better they are. We also have a program where they will assist me in visiting homes and doing interventions, and they feel ownership when they talk to these kids, and I give them the task of following up with these kids by phone. So keeping them busy is the key. Funding is a really big issue for all the municipalities right now, but if there were more activities for kids and they were organized and made exciting, we'd see a lot less gang activity.
I like to ask questions about success stories.
Sure.
You've talked about some of this. Tell me a success story or two.
We have a couple kids right now. Edwin joined us back in 2004. He was a student at Keys Academy, was involved in a gang.
I've done a program there. One of the hardest programs I ever did as Uncle Sam was at the Keys Academy.
Tough group.
Getting their attention, keeping any attention, because they all wanted to show off for each other.
That's exactly what happens. Unfortunately, it's the DAEP, which is the Alternative Educational School, and a lot of them have difficulties in attention span. But this kid was very involved in the gang at the time. He lived and breathed it. And we worked with him, talked to him, were able to get him a summer job, brought him on presentations, and we talked to him about the Marines and about the military. He got himself an email saying his name, the Marine. He ended up joining the Army. He's right now in Afghanistan. He is proud as can be.
Oh.
And this young man is happy because he's done that. We had a kid also who is now in the military in, I believe it's, I'm not sure what location, San Antonio somewhere, but he is another success story that we had, an individual who was black and black and Hispanic and faced a lot of issues because of that racial mix. We have a young man right now, Adrian, who has been with us for 4 whole years. And just now he's making successes where he was able to graduate from one of the high schools we put him into, a charter school. He started community college for a short while. He, on his own, entered a drug rehab program.
Good.
And this is things where he's making decisions correctly. And this is a child who's battling OCD and issues such as, for example, ADHD. But it takes attention and love. It doesn't happen overnight. And these kids mess up frequently. These kids will mess up all the time. One of the big issues is a return to drugs. Marijuana is a very big drug that is used on a regular basis. And while they may improve behavior, they may self-medicate. And that brings problems. Issues of, for example, not knowing how to deal with conflict. And Adrian's learning that even today. Doesn't happen overnight, but the thing is, these are success stories, and success is measured in different ways. It doesn't mean someone fully left the gang.
Right.
Sometimes they got to straddle, but the thing is they were able to transition in a way where they can find success and no dependence upon a group that they have to identify with.
With so little money available to you to do all of this work, do you have any goals that you'd like to reach that you've not yet reached, things you'd like to do? Maybe the public needs to know this.
There are 2 things. We're looking for a van right now. Yesterday, for example, we couldn't bring all the kids with us because we didn't have the transportation. A lot of people are afraid to work with gang members. They will not transport them.
Right.
A lot of people wonder whether there's a success factor at all. We're looking for a center, an actual office to be able to have people come and meet us on a regular basis, if they could loan that to us, and also a van. We're also looking for people who might want to be able to spend time with the kids transporting us. I do a background check on them, but be able to see if they can help us out in transporting or assisting as a chaperone, maybe making phone calls to certain people, checking on behavior. We do those on a regular basis, and it's a program that's ongoing all the time. It's not just a one-time visit. We work throughout the week with the individual, and we need people who can phone, call, and assist, and any kind of cash donation also would be great.
Okay. Now, how do you build the trust with the people that are working with them? Do you say, we've got these guidelines and these things and these checkups we do with these students, so you know that your purse is not going to be gone through and all of these things? People always have this problem of trust if they know someone has been in a gang.
Right. We always do things in pairs or more. And
Okay,
the thing
good.
is, number one, I never go alone. And the thing is, we also give a training to the individuals about, for example, how to maintain eye contact. You never want to look up and down a gangster and check him out so that he's able to see a distrust factor. You also sit close with them. It may be uncomfortable for them, but they realize this person's not afraid of me. And the idea, you talk in your own normal way, but the thing is you show the person you understand the gang culture, you kind of drop little hints that you know about it, little vernacular, and eventually you tell the person, you know what, I'm here for you. And the thing is you talk in such a way that they're going to be able to feel like you vested in them. And it's all done by body language. Can't be done another way. And believe it or not, they will tend to incline to you if you are able to display the proper body language, and more than anything, how to be able to couch your trust in what you are saying to the person bodily.
Good. Now, you brought a lot of things here.
Sure
This may get a glare off the camera, but you want to tell us about these kind of poster things that you work with or put together. Do your students, your former gang members or current gang members trying to get out or something, they see all these gang signs, do they help you put this together?
They sure do. In fact, what happens is they're always giving me ideas as to what's going on. It's from them that I learned the current gang involvement. Right now in El Paso, we have 540 gangs. The number of gangs is growing, and I can't keep on top of who the gangs are. But the kids will say, for example, there's a new gang at so-and-so school. This is what they're called. They've got about 6 members. This is who's involved. These are their colors. And we also...
Is it okay for us to show these on camera?
Fine. These are okay. In fact, these are okay here. For example, this here is an example of some kids from several years back. And I'm just showing what the clothing is like and their signs. And they're a very, very tight group. This is their family. When a gang member joins a group, he looks at the group as his second family. Right. It often supplants the initial family. So he is very, very tied to them, and he often has no intention of leaving. And we never tell a youngster he needs to leave the gang. We often ask him to straddle, but eventually on his own he finds out. But these are some of the things you'll see as far as gang culture, some of the tattoos, some of the way that they sign. This is very typical gang clothing. And we show this to parents so that they realize when they start to see this, you're seeing the start of gang involvement. We also show parents, for example, some of the stuff that they might see as far as graffiti in their home. This is more or less a tagging graffiti here. This is more graffiti from a Sudaño, which is the number 13 I mentioned a while back. And those are indicative of the gang lifestyle. Skeletons, skulls, numbers that are indicative of...
They like scary.
They like scary stuff. Nothing that's sissy-ish. Okay. And that's indicative there. This is a party crew that is throwing a party, and they will send out flyers to different places at schools and invite people to a party where it's underage drinkers. Gangs not also are just territorial and neighborhood gangs. We're seeing rebel crews, boys who dance and compete against each other and have fights and also throw underage parties. They're gang members. We're seeing tagging crews. We're seeing car clubs that are gang members. And one of the biggest ones right now is party crews. They're groups of boys typically who have a common identity, and they're perpetuating a crime, and that crime is underage parties. And so they will announce these parties, charge $5, $10 to get in, and there's no parent present. This is a gang because of the fact that there are 3 or more, common identity, engaging in a criminal activity such as underage drinking. You see drugs like ecstasy, drugs like rohypnol, rooms for sex, all kinds of activities. So this is a gang on its own with a different type of style and activity.
What do you use to combat this idea of you've got to do something to prove your manhood to be a part of our gang and stay a part of our gang? How do you fight that?
It's unfortunate. We have a character building class that talks about the idea of integrity. Be yourself and be who you are and love who you are. Believe it or not, it works. Unfortunately, we're seeing the media and a lot of rappers that indicate the idea to be a man, you've got to be able to grab your crotch and be tough and be violent, and unfortunately treat your woman like she's your property. Right. But we try to engage the person in understanding God, family, and you. And the idea, it's your attitude and your personality, and the thing is, the bottom line is we're all the same. We try to get that message across. We also try to bring the girlfriend of the gangster who's a male involved so that she also has a say in the situation. Girls, the girlfriend of the gangster who's a male, can really be beneficial to us in helping that child make a decision to leave the gang or to at least change behavior. We check with her. We also ask the guy to consider treating her better. Unfortunately, the media tells a lot of guys what they must be, and that's the biggest obstacle we have. And in our Hispanic culture, we have a lot of machismo, where it's important to be tough and rough and not give in. So it's an uphill battle, and it's got to be a one-on-one situation. We try to have role models who are educated, who don't need to show machismo to do that. And hopefully through these examples, they might be able to benefit and say, you know what, I don't need to be as tough as I might want to be.
Now, you're a counselor. Do you train others to do these things? Do you have a team that can go out to these different schools or these groups and sit down with them as interventionists?
We have a group of about 5 individuals who are adults right now who are able to go out and work with me. We have a 15-series lesson on working with a gangster. It's called Círculo Fuerte. And it's training them on how to be able to sit in a group, how to be able to get the group together, how far to sit from the youngster, what to talk about, what not to talk about, what to bring with you at the meeting. Whenever we do an intervention, we always bring a drug kit and do a drug test whenever possible. And so it's a whole 15-week lesson that's given these advisors who want to learn about this so that they can replicate the work I do. The sad thing is that it's very time-consuming, very involved, and people don't stay.
And this is a huge city.
It's huge, and there's basically one of me and maybe 5 at a time of us. And so the best bet I have is having the kids work with me. They're committed as they can be, but unfortunately, there's no funding for gang programs, and very little interest. And unfortunately, a lot of funding is done on what can it do for other people, and so it's a sad situation that doesn't get us anywhere.
Well, we have a very small viewing audience compared to the major television networks, so we hope that some people are out there watching that are interested in sociology and counseling and social work. I have a number of students that have become
we can always use interns,
probation officers and others. I have some that work in the jail. I see them down when I go see my friend in the jail once a month. So we certainly want to put out an appeal for this. So why don't you once again give us your telephone number?
The number is 239-1997, area code 915-239-1997, and the website is www.operationnogangs.org. It's got a little site there at the bottom, and you can make a donation if you'd like to. And at the bottom, you just go on there, you can leave a $5, $10, $100 donation, whatever you want to, on PayPal.
Well, these are tough economic times. Here we are in March of 2010. And but this is an investment in the future.
Right.
This is investment in our young people and our community.
What is so sad also is I'm a Christian also, and we have a lot of churches that will give to missions in Ecuador and Peru, and I'm not against that, but there's a lot of work here in El Paso, and we're talking about even West El Paso and East El Paso, not just South El Paso, but we got to start at home first. And that's where I tell people,
well, our time is about gone. Rob, it's been great.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Sure did.
Good luck with your work. May God be with you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Okay. Thank you for watching this program. We hope that you were inspired by it, and you will also help make a difference in El Paso.